Have you ever noticed how two people can face the exact same setback, yet walk away from it with completely different stories? Imagine two people who both experience a difficult day at work. Perhaps a project they led didn't meet expectations, or they received some pointed feedback from a supervisor. The first person goes home and feels a heavy sense of finality. They think, I guess I'm just not cut out for this level of responsibility. To them, the event was a verdict. It was a measurement of who they are, and that measurement came up short. The second person goes home feeling frustrated, certainly, but also curious. They find themselves wondering, what part of my approach didn't work? What do I need to practice before I try this again? To them, the event wasn't a verdict on their identity, it was just information about their current strategy. Why do we react so differently to the challenges of life? This question is at the heart of the work of psychologist Carol Dweck. In her research, she identified a fundamental internal switch that dictates how we learn, how we love, and how we lead. She calls this the mindset. Specifically, she suggests that we all tend to operate from one of two distinct frameworks, the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. These aren't just personality traits, they're the underlying beliefs we hold about the very nature of our intelligence and our character. Before we go deeper, it's helpful to understand why this matters. The mindset you adopt isn't just an abstract thought. It's the lens through which you see every effort, every failure, and every success. It determines whether you see your life as a finished sculpture that must be protected from cracks, or as a piece of clay that is constantly being shaped. Let's begin by looking at the foundation of the fixed mindset. If you hold a fixed mindset, you believe that your qualities are carved in stone. You believe you were born with a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a specific set of talents. From this perspective, life becomes a never-ending series of tests. If you only have a set amount of ability, then every situation feels like it's demanding a grade. You feel you must constantly prove that you are smart, talented, or capable. If you fail, it doesn't just mean you made a mistake, it means you are a failure. The self is a static thing that must be validated over and over again. In simpler terms, for someone in this state of mind, being smart is a permanent label you have to protect. If you have to work hard at something, it must mean you aren't actually smart, because if you were naturally gifted, it should come easily. Now, contrast this with the growth mindset. In this framework, the belief is that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your own efforts. While people might differ in their initial talents, interests, or temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. In this world, the goal isn't to look smart, but to become smarter. Success isn't about proving you're the best, it's about the personal satisfaction of stretching yourself to learn something new. Failure is still painful. It's never fun to lose or to fall short, but failure is not a permanent identity. It is a problem to be faced, dealt with, and learned from. To put it more simply, one mindset is about validation, while the other is about becoming. Let's look at how these two paths diverge when they encounter the idea of effort.
In a fixed mindset, effort is a bad sign. It's a terrifying thought. If you believe talent is innate, then needing to put in effort is proof that you lack talent. It's as if there's a secret rule that says the geniuses don't need to try. This belief creates a dangerous trap. It makes people avoid challenges because they are afraid that if they try and fail, they will lose their talented status forever. But in a growth mindset, effort is what makes you smart or talented. It is the fuel that drives the engine. It's not a sign of weakness, it's the only way to mastery. When a task is difficult, someone with this mindset doesn't think, "I'm not good at this." They think, "This is the moment where the growth is happening." Think about how this applies to something like a new hobby or a new role at work. If you start with the idea that you just aren't a math person or not a natural leader, you are operating from that fixed place. You are closing a door before you've even walked through it. But if you view math or leadership as a set of skills that can be built, the difficulty of the task becomes the very reason to keep going. This brings us to a crucial point about how these mindsets are formed. Often, it begins in childhood, with the way the adults around us gave us feedback. Consider the difference between two types of praise. One parent says, "You got an A, you're so smart." The other parent says, "You got an A, I can see how hard you studied and how you didn't give up on those tough questions." The first type of praise, praising the person's traits, actually pushes the child toward a fixed mindset. It tells them that their success is due to a fixed quality they possess. This makes them afraid of the next test, because if they don't get an A next time, it might mean they are no longer smart. The second type of praise, praising the process, fosters a growth mindset. It tells the child that their success came from their strategy and their persistence. It gives them a tool they can use again, even when the work gets harder. In everyday terms, praising the result makes us fragile. Praising the path makes us resilient. We can see these mindsets playing out in the world of sports and business as well. In sports, we often worship the natural athlete, but Dweck's research suggests that many of the greatest athletes of all time weren't necessarily the most naturally gifted. They were the ones who were most obsessed with the process. They were the ones who stayed late at practice to work on their weaknesses. They didn't see themselves as finished products. They saw themselves as works in progress. In the business world, a fixed mindset in a leader can be disastrous. If a leader feels they must be the smartest person in the room to maintain their status, they will stop listening to feedback. They will surround themselves with people who agree with them. They become more concerned with looking like a hero than with the actual health of the company. A growth-minded leader, however, looks for ways to develop everyone around them. They aren't threatened by the talent of others, they're energized by it. They view their organization as a place for collective learning, where mistakes are analyzed rather than punished. It's important here to address some common misunderstandings about these ideas. Sometimes people think having a growth mindset means believing that anyone can do anything, that anyone could be Mozart if they just tried hard enough. But that's not what the research suggests. We all have different starting points and different potentials. The growth mindset simply claims that no one knows what a person's ultimate potential is or what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training.
Another misunderstanding is the false growth mindset. This happens when someone thinks a growth mindset is just about being open-minded or having a positive outlook. They might tell a child to try harder without actually giving them new strategies or support. A true growth mindset isn't just about the volume of effort. It's about the quality of the process. It's about trying a new approach when the old one fails, seeking help when you're stuck, and actually learning from the experience. It's not just about trying, it's about learning how to try. So how do we move from one mindset to the other? It's not as simple as flipping a light switch. Most of us are a mix of both. We might have a growth mindset when it comes to our hobbies, but a very fixed mindset when it comes to our relationships or our intelligence. The first step is simply awareness. It's about learning to hear the fixed mindset voice. That voice is the one that says, "What if you fail? You'll be a failure." It's the voice that says, "Don't take that risk. People will see you don't know what you're doing." It's the voice that says, "It's not my fault. It was the circumstances as a way to protect the ego from criticism. When you hear that voice, you can learn to talk back to it with a growth mindset perspective. When the voice says, "What if you fail?" you can answer, "Most successful people failed on their way to the top." When it says, "I don't have the talent for this," you can answer, "I may not know how to do it yet, but I can learn." This shift in internal dialogue changes the threat of a challenge into an opportunity for development. Over time, this practice changes the brain. It builds new pathways. It makes resilience a habit rather than a struggle. As we look at our own lives, we can see that the mindset we choose determines the world we live in. One world is focused on being perfect right now. It is a world of constant comparison and the fear of being found out. It is a world where failure is a permanent mark on your record. The other world is focused on getting better. It is a world where you are allowed to be a beginner. It is a world where mistakes are just the friction of learning. The choice between these two worlds isn't about being born lucky. It's about the story we tell ourselves about who we are and what we are capable of becoming. It's about moving from the question, "Am I good enough?" to the question, "How can I grow?" Think about a challenge you are currently facing. Perhaps it's a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, or a skill you've been afraid to practice because you don't want to look foolish. Which voice are you listening to? What would happen if you viewed that challenge not as a test of your worth, but as an invitation to expand? The ideas we have explored today suggest that our potential is not a fixed point on a map. It is a horizon that moves with us as we walk towards it.